Have you ever seen this clip of Gotham Chess talking about openings you shouldn't play? Here's what he had to say about the Ruy Lopez.
Why on earth would you play the Ruy Lopez? Who do you think you are? You think you're some 2,700 grand? Do you even know what the Ruy Lopez is? It is one of the most complex, positional, well-explored openings by some of the. It's like climbing Mount Everest.
Okay, and so he's saying it's like climbing Mount Everest, and he's suggesting in that video, you can leave your thoughts below. I interpret it as him saying that, well, unless you're a strong player, this is an opening that you shouldn't be bothered with. And so let's put up on the screen the Ruy Lopez. And so how do we get here? We have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Okay, an opening steeped in history. And so in this video, I'm going to actually challenge this assertion from Gotham Chess. And I've only been playing the game 2-3 years. And my experiences with the Ruy Lopez is that actually it's a wonderful opening for beginners and amateurs for the simple reason that black really just has no idea what it's doing. And so it presents lots and lots of opportunity for players with the white pieces. And before I get into all this, just want to say that Gotham Chess is doing an amazing job in bringing chess to people all around the world. If you think about something like golf, it's not really accessible. You need equipment, you need a golf course, you need money to play that game. However, with an internet connection, free sites like Lichess, free resources on YouTube, anyone can play chess. And so he's playing an important role in bringing the game to people all over the planet. However, on this particular point about Ruy Lopez, I'm not sure he's right. And there is simple reasons for that. Okay, so let me put up on the screen my favorite thing in the whole wide world. You know what that is? It is, of course, the Lichess database. And what you can see here in the Lichess database is everyone that's not master level players. The most popular move here is a6. Okay, this is the Morphy Defence, which is played at the top level, so grandmasters will do that. However, the second most popular response here is d6, the Steinitz Defence. And if we go into the masters database, you can see a6, Morphy Defence, knight f6, the Berlin Defence is what's played at the top level, but d6 is way down on this list. 635 games out of 135,000 is basically nothing, so less than 1% of title players are going to be doing this. And so the whole problem with playing d6 is that it's a kind of time-wasting move from black, and it gives white a commanding position if you know what you're doing. So why is it a time-wasting move? Because this pawn on e5 needs no protection. So let's say you had a6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, knight takes e5 doesn't work because of queen d4, and now this pawn is hanging, this knight is hanging. Let's say you go back, we have queen takes e4, check, and you're most probably going to have this queenless middle game where queen takes queen, king takes queen. And so d6 is just a move that you don't need to make. And one of the ways to put your opponent under a lot of pressure if you have the white pieces is just to go ahead and play this move d4. And so this move is recommended by Grandmaster Goetsky. I don't know how to pronounce his name, I do apologize. In his 1e4 course on Chessable, you can buy it, or you can do the free short and sweet version as shown on the screen. And so after d4, when you go into the Lichess database, let's put it back up on the screen, what you immediately realize is that white is doing really well. Okay, so you can see that there are some 3 million games with this position on the board after d4. And just have a look at these win percentages, guys. 53% e takes d4, bishop d7, 54%, a6, 59%, bishop g4, 55%, keep going down, 61%, 59%. Really just white is doing well because black has this very narrow path to make this work. Okay, and you can put black under a lot of pressure. And so I'm just going to go over some common lines in the top 4 responses shown here on the Lichess database, and I'm going to show you why black gets into a lot of trouble. And so if we take off the Lichess database, so the 4th most popular response is bishop g4. It's kind of a useless pin, a premature pin. White hasn't committed to castling short. It doesn't really do much. And so here we can just go ahead and develop, let's say knight c3. And a6 is, I think, just a mistake because after bishop takes c6, b takes c6, d takes e5. If you have takes, then we have queen takes queen, rook takes queen. And now we can take here on e5. And white is just in a winning position. Look at this horrible pawn structure. There is no mate here on d1 because the knight prevents mate. And so this move, bishop g4, knight c3, a6, doesn't really do anything. So instead of a6, you could have e takes d4. Okay, and now we can just have queen takes d4. That's a completely safe square for the queen. This knight is pinned. And now in this position, if they want to go ahead and play bishop takes f3, it doesn't matter, g takes f3, and maybe the plans for this game is to play rook g1 and castle long, and if you turn on the engine, white is definitely in a slightly winning position, so very comfortable. So bishop g4 is just completely harmless. The third most popular move in the Lichess database is to play this move a6, which is just a mistake. White is just winning now, because after bishop takes c6, b takes c6, you can just take this pawn here on e5, and if you have d takes e5, we have queen takes queen, king takes queen, knight takes e5, and now this pawn is hanging, this pawn is hanging, this rook is hanging. I don't know what it is, about +2 or 3 on the engine, but white is in a completely winning position. So you just cannot play a6 in this position. However, a huge volume of games go with that, and I've seen that a lot when I was climbing the rating ladder. Okay, and so the only two moves you can really play in this position are e takes d4 and bishop d7. That's really the only moves black can play in this position. So after e takes d4, you can go ahead and play knight takes d4, and now black has to do something about the c6 square, so we have bishop d7, let's say knight c3, and in this position, the most common move is knight takes d4, bishop takes g7 check, queen takes d7, queen takes d4, and here black's position is very passive. You can't play g6 because you're just going to hang the rook, so you can't put this bishop on a monster diagonal, and so it has to go to this passive square here on e7. If black tries to first play knight f6 with a view of playing g6, how do you stop that? Well, you can just go ahead and play this move bishop g5, and now of course you can't play g6 because the knight is just hanging, and so this is just a very, very easy position for white to play. Alternatively, in this position, if you have knight f6, you can have, say, castles, bishop e7, and now just take here on c6, bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, and in this position b takes c6, go ahead and play this move f4. And again, if you turn on the engine, black isn't going to castle long, obviously black is going to castle short. You have here some kingside pressure, and white is in a commanding position. The other try here from black is to play this move bishop d7. Okay, so if they play bishop d7, you can just take here on c6, and you get compensation for losing the bishop pair. So after bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, there is this dubious try. You can try this. I've seen this in my games where you just play this move d5. This is not the best move. It's dubious. Black can just go back here to d7. But what many players in the Lichess database, they do is they play this move bishop b5. And why they're doing that is because they want to stop you from castling, but you can go ahead and play this move c4. And that looks like you're hanging a pawn, bishop takes c4, but you have queen a4 check. You haven't immediately won this bishop because they're going to play this move b5. But now after queen c2, where is this bishop going to go? You're threatening b3. And so the most popular continuation in the Lichess database is knight f6. And now we play b3. And I can tell you that most games go like this. Bishop takes d5. E takes d5. And you just cannot take, but everyone does. Knight takes d5. And we have queen c6 check. And I don't know what it is on the engine. Maybe like +10 or whatever. But it's time to hit that resign button. Okay, so instead of d5, a more principled thing to do is just to play knight c3 here. And now the most common response is e takes d4. And now we have knight takes d4, knight f6. And here there's some pressure here on this e4 pawn. You could try queen d3, queen e2. But there's this interesting try with queen f3. And it leads to a very sharp position. You have to be careful about this x-ray. Okay, it's not an immediate threat. What the Lichess database shows is that many players with the black pieces will play this move bishop b7. They're just trying to develop and castle. Okay, and here you can try this move knight f5. Okay, so they castle, and now there's this absolute gangster move, bishop h6, putting a lot of pressure here on the black king side. And remember, you haven't committed to castling yet. You could go long, you could go short. And here, if they take, they're just losing because of queen g3 check. And if they don't want to be checkmated, they have to return the knight or return a piece. But after you take that piece, it's then check. There's a threat of mate here, and they have to play this move bishop g5. And of course, we're going to win that piece with the move h4. And if you turn on the engine, white is completely winning. So there you go. The Steinitz Defence, there's really nothing to worry about here. You think about things like the London system being quite easy to play, getting into comfortable positions. When such a huge volume of games in the Ruy Lopez go with the Steinitz Defence, and after d4, it doesn't really matter what black does. If they play bishop g4, if they play a6, if they play e takes d4, if they play bishop d7, it's quite easy, as long as you know what you're doing, to put black under a lot of pressure, and you're going to win a lot of games as you get good at this. if they go ahead and play some of the main lines, even after say something like a6, which is the Morphy Defence played at the top level, you'll see that beginners actually mishandle this. Okay, so after bishop a4, really what black needs to be doing is to be playing moves like bishop e7, knight f6, martial attack stuff. However, what's very common at the low levels is just b5, trying to hit this bishop, and now we have bishop b3, and now there's this move knight f6, which I think is a little bit dubious, and I have a whole video on this position. And so here what you can do is to play this move d4, where black has to walk a very, very narrow path to stay in the game, and black can just get in a lot of trouble. If we switch on the Lichess database, you can see here that this position has been reached almost 100,000 times, and white has won almost 60%, despite the fact that the engine evaluation is only slightly favoring white. And I have a whole video about this. I'll link to it at the end of this video where you can go ahead and study this position. But as one example, if we turn off the Lichess database of what goes on after e takes d4, just go ahead and castle, gambit a pawn. They try to protect their pawn with bishop c5. We have e5, and now this knight's got to go somewhere, so they move to g4. And now there's a double attack here on this e5 pawn, and you can follow up with bishop d5. This knight can now no longer move because of the rook. And maybe what they should be doing in this position is to be playing this move rook b8, get out this pin. However, the most popular continuation in the database is just castles, and now after h3, where is this knight going to go? If it goes to h6, we're just going to take and completely compromise the safety of the black king. And there's loads and loads of treacherous paths here in this position, in this variation of the Morphy Defence, excuse me. Okay, and so I understand why Gotham Chess is saying the things he's saying in that video. It's a highly theoretical opening, and maybe as you get better at chess and you start climbing the rating ladder, you start to experience people who are playing all the theoretical lines. But at the beginner level, at the amateur level, what you tend to find is that black is just doing things, random things, which are quite dubious and things that you can put under a lot of pressure. And there could be a whole host of reasons for that. Maybe instead of bishop b5, they were expecting bishop c4, the Italian game. And so I think it's a fantastic weapon in your arsenal. Let me know your thoughts below. Thank you very much for your time.